Hello children, Sai Ram. Welcome back to Social Studies class. This is chapter 11, Recording and Communicating Knowledge, part 3. Children, in our last two sessions, we discussed on the topics that is Introduction on Communication, Written Communication and Writing Numbers. This is our last session on this chapter, and in our today's session we are going to know more about how paper and printing was discovered. Okay, we are also going to discuss on Braille, a script for the blind, and knowledge, literacy and progress. Now, if you have to see writing, okay, writing as such, we need something to write, isn't it? We cannot just write it in the air. So the people had to discover something. Okay, the people had to come up with something wherein they could write. Okay, and they discovered paper. Okay, they made paper wherein they could write something and keep the record. So the ancient Egyptians used stem of plant called papyrus. Okay, the ancient Egyptians used stem of a plant called papyrus to make paper. Okay, around 4,000 years ago. And this explains why we have the word paper. Okay, the word paper is derived from the word papyrus. Okay, the name paper is derived from papyrus. That's why we have the word paper. And the true paper, okay, the true paper as we know it today was first made in China from the bark of trees around 1900 years ago. The Chinese allowed these bark of trees to be made into a pulp. Okay, and then the pulp was spread into a sheet and it was left to dry so that they could write on it. Clear? But today we use wood pulp to make paper. And here on the screen we can see an image of a machine where bark of trees are converted into a paper. Okay, now paper was invented long time before printing ever existed. Children, earlier the books were handwritten. Okay, the books were written by hand on the paper. So you can just imagine a book, say 50 pages, all handwritten. Okay, how long that would take to make a single book. So this explains why it was very slow and laborious process and why books were so rare and they were available with only few people. Then we have the whole concept of printing which came into existence. So the first type of printing that came into existence was developed in China. Okay, the first type of printing that came into existence was developed in China about 2000 years ago, and this was on a carved wooden block, as we can see here in the image. Okay, on the carved wooden block, and it was printed So it was called as block printing. So if you see block printing, that is the Chinese cut design on flat blocks of wood. So if you see here, this is flat wooden block, and like ink was applied on the block and it was pressed on the paper, and once that is done, the impression of the design was made on the paper. And here we can take the example of the stamp which we use. You might have noticed the people using stamps in offices, you might have seen, or in the banks you might have seen. Okay, what they do first, they take the stamp in their hand, they put it on the ink pad, okay, and then they press it on the paper. Clear? So the design which is carved on the stamp used to come on the paper. So this method was used by the Chinese to print books. But actually it took a long time to carve out the details on the wooden blocks. Okay. Then we had a revolution in printing that took place in the year 1450. Okay. We had a revolution in printing that took place in the year 1450. In the year 1450, Johann Gutenberg of Germany brought a revolution in printing. Okay. Johann Gutenberg of Germany brought a revolution in printing. Now, how did he bring revolution? Yes, he made several small metal molds of the letters. Okay, he made several small metal molds of different letters of the alphabets, and these were called as types. Clear? And these types could be arranged to form words, lines, paragraphs, and even pages. This was called as typesetting. Okay, what was it called? Yes, typesetting. And here is the picture. Now, this was easier and quicker compared to a block printing. Okay, once the type was made, ink was applied and pressed on the paper, and several copies of books were made. And once several copies of books were printed, they were easily available, as the books could now be printed much faster and in larger numbers. Now the books became cheaper and more people started buying books for reading. So reading developed during this season. Now, when we talk about reading, generally the people who can see can read. Isn't it, children? Yes, the people who can see can read. But what about them, the one who are unable to see? Yes, to help even the blind, to help even the visually challenged people to gain the knowledge, a script has been developed. Okay, a special script has been designed for the people who are unable to see. Okay, So with the help of their fingers, they place the fingers on the dots or the patterns which are created. Okay, and they touch it, they feel the paper, and like this they read it. And this script is called as Braille script. Okay, children. So the visually challenged people read a book using their fingers. As you can see here in this picture, this person is reading. Okay, this person is touching, feeling the paper to read. And it was developed by a noble person named as Louis Braille. Okay, so who discovered Braille script? Yes, Louis Braille has discovered the Braille script. Now if you see this script, the letters of each word, okay, the letters of each word are printed in patterns, as you can see here in the image. Okay, it is in patterns of small dots. So these dots are raised from the surface of the paper. Okay, so that the visually challenged person can feel them with the fingers. Okay, so the person can read it by lightly running their fingers along these dots. That's it with the Braille script. Now we have come a long way from counting with sticks and stones to painting on the walls of the caves, up to printing of the books and Braille script. Okay, so we can clearly say that knowledge and literacy can lead to progress in the country. Okay, now with the development of the computers, printing has become much easier, that means faster and better. Okay, so today's software like PageMaker and InDesign are used to arrange the text and pictures in the pages to print them. Now if a country wants to make progress, okay, it is important that knowledge be communicated to a large number of people. This can happen only if the people of the country know to read and write. So you can also say that literacy is the key to progress. Okay, literacy is therefore the key to success. But unfortunately in India, a large number of people still cannot read and write. Okay, so we have to move towards educating people to build a progressive nation. Okay, so here we come to the end of our chapter. Now let's have a quick recapitulation. I want you all to read along with me. Okay, number 1. Recording knowledge in written form is important for communicating to a large number of people. Number 2. Written communication started with pictures, then came signs and symbols. Number 3. Most languages today use the system of alphabets for writing. Number 4. The Hindu-Arabic system used to write numbers today was developed in India. Number 5. Block printing was first used in China. Johann Gutenberg brought about a revolution in printing by using reusable types. Number 7. The Braille script can be read by visually challenged people with their fingers. Now let's read words to remember, which is there at the end of the chapter in your textbook. Script, a system of writing a language. Typesetting, the process of arranging text for printing. Braille, a system for writing a language for the people who cannot see. Visually challenged, a person who cannot see. Okay, children, here we come to the end of our session, and even we completed with our chapter. So I want everyone to read the entire chapter, that is the textbook, and you will also solve the exercise which is there at the end of the chapter, and learn the question answers. Read the entire textbook thoroughly. So any question may be asked from any part of the chapter. Okay, so until then, do take care of yourself and goodbye.